Hello, hope so you are all right, fine. So today our video is about HTML course. Okay, so in this video we will uh, make a video upon HTML course where we'll go from the very basic to full advanced. Okay, so in this video we are going to complete the HTML course. So for HTML, and also we'll go for a little bit later for further we will go with CSS, JavaScript, Node.js, Express.js, React.js, okay, and much more. We'll go with that, but before that we are just going to use some extensions. Okay, so here we have some important extensions. The first is HTML CSS support, auto close tag, auto rename tag, import cast, IntelliSense for CSS class names, and HTML live server, lorem spam, material icon theme, path IntelliSense, prettier code, rainbow brackets, and the last one, which is a tailwind CSS IntelliSense, but it's not for HTML. Few of them are actually for HTML, and the rest of them are not actually for the HTML, but believe me, you will use it later, okay, in later courses. So there are two extensions. The first one is material icon, and the second one is prettier. So whenever you install prettier, it will not work directly. So what will you do? That you will, okay, if you are also curious about my extensions, so you can also see my extensions here. So all of them are my extensions, auto close tag, and also see to the icons that these icons are actually important that you will select. Okay, auto rename tag, here are the others: HTML CSS support, HTML snippets, import cast, IntelliSense for CSS, live server, lorem spam, material icon theme, path IntelliSense, prettier code, rainbow brackets. Okay, so live server is actually we will use it for our file to run it. Okay, so it don't need to refresh the page. Okay, and prettier is actually to make a better structure to our code. Okay, and material icon, which give us icons to our folders and files. Okay, so these are actually, these icons are due to material icons. Okay, so first whenever you install prettier, okay, so this prettier code formatter, so then you will go to the setting whenever you install it. Okay, go into the settings. Inside the setting you will go into text editor. Okay, inside the text editor you need to go to formatting. Okay, inside the formatting, the format on save will be unclicked. Okay, so then you will click on that. Okay, so you will mark it click, so then you leave it, then you will have to go to view. Inside the view you will go to command palette. Inside that you will find the prettier. Okay, so prettier, you will write it prettier. Here it is, prettier. But in prettier you also need to go okay, let me just then you will go to the prettier, and inside the prettier you will select default. But before that I am going to show you a little bit demo of it, that how does it works. So first we need to go to HTML. Okay, what is HTML? HTML is actually a hypertext markup language. Okay, so the extension of the HTML is .html. Whenever you create a file, so first I'm just going to create a file, index.html, and also I want to tell you that you should install VS Code, because it's a very better code editor. So some people are using Notepad++, some are using the Sublime, so you can use it whatever you want, but I think VS Code is much better for code editor. Okay, so this is a very better code editor. So first for this index.html I use index.html. the .html is actually the extension of HTML file. Okay, so you will represent this HTML file from .html. If it was CSS, so then you will have to write index.css. if it was a JS file, so then you will have to write .js. A C++ for C, and for C and for C++ you need to write it C++. Okay, so all these extensions are just the file and language extensions. So now here we wrote the index.html, so this is an HTML file. Okay, so before you want to start the HTML file, so you need to create a simple HTML template. Okay, so in from these extensions what we wrote, due to these extensions, VS Code give us very simple way. So you will have to write it a shift and not sign. The not sign is upon 1. Okay, so shift and 1, you will find this icon, so you will have to click on this symbol. Okay, so it will give you a simple template of HTML. Okay, inside this HTML, this doc type HTML actually it shows us that this is an HTML document. Okay, so this starts from this one. The HTML document starts from this one. Okay, inside this we have an HTML, okay, which is start from here and close at the end. Okay, so this actually wraps the whole documents and everything inside head. And then we have this head. Okay, so the head is actually a container of the meta title. Inside that we can use styles and links, but we'll use these styles and links a little bit later, that what are styles and what are links. Okay, so we'll use it a little bit later. And here we have a title. Actually the title is the title of our file, that what is the name of this let's say you are creating a website, so what will be the title of that? Okay, let's say you are creating it for a shop, so it will be a shop. If you are creating it for a school, so it will be a school. Okay, so you can write it whatever you want, so you can change it school, college, whatever you want. Okay, so we will leave it as a default document. And then we have this body. Okay, so actually the body is whatever we need to write it, the all document files of this HTML, so it will be wrapped inside this body. Whatever we are visualing to the front end, so it will be inside this body. Like if you are creating a website, so it will have images, it will have some paragraphs, it will have some headings. All these things will be shown inside this body. It will be wrapped inside this body and it will show inside this body. Okay, so the body has two parts. The first one is the starting point and the second one is actually the closing tag. So this here I'm just gonna write it without this body. So this is actually the starting point. Okay, these a little bit greater and less than sign, these are actually the starting point of it, and this is actually the closing point of it. So inside that, whatever you write, let's say it is a body, so this will be the starting point and this will be the ending point. After this slash it will close. Okay, so here the body starts and here it ends. So you will write everything inside the end of the inside the middle of the body. Okay, so I'm just going to finish it so that you know only that this is the starting point and this is the closing point. And one thing that you notice that I just finish this one, or if I just simply write this one, so it is filling the closing point too. So this is actually the extension due to this extension. Okay, this auto rename tag. So that's why I'm saying that these are really important. And now I'm saying to you about the extension of Prettier. If I save this, let me just make it a little bit crazy, that how does it actually make it much good. So if I say Control S, so it will reformat the code with a better structure. So this is because of Prettier. Okay, so I told you that you will have to make it inside that. It has two ways. The first one is format document with, and you will select this Prettier as a default. Okay, so here you will click, it will not be default. So first you will configure it on the default and then you will click on that Prettier. So you will select that. Now it's by default, or you can also go in here and you will go to format document with. If you don't want to go to view and command pillar, so you can write it format document with, and you will select the default one, and then inside the default you will select the Prettier by default. Okay, so then if you write Control S, it will work. But before that you also have to do this process. We are in the settings. Inside this settings you will go to the text editor, then formatting and format on save. Okay, then you will have to do it there here. So inside the body like the body is actually the main file for that. Inside this body we will write all the visual things that we want to show it upon our screen. Okay, so before that we are just going to start it our first visual tag, we can say, or element. So that is let's say h tag. Okay, h is stand for heading, but we have headings from 1 to 6 which has different we can say sizes. So the first one is h1 tag, and notice that I just wrote h1, and then whenever I use tab or enter, so it will auto complete me the close and the starting and closing point of the h1 also. So these are all due to extensions, so that's why I'm saying to you that first do all these extensions, and after that you will have to come to this. Okay, so this is in h1. These are really important, so these extensions are very important, and you have to use VS Code for these extensions either. So the first one is h1 heading. Okay, so I'm just gonna write that my h1 heading. Okay, so inside this h1 heading we'll see the rest of the headings either, but first we have to start this. Okay, so for starting that we want to use live server, which I have told you that live server we would have to install this live server. So now I'm just gonna right click upon this and open with live server. This is one way, but you will click on this HTML file, and the second one way is here to click here and look into this open with live server. So you can use both ways. Okay, there's no different way for that. So here this is my h1 heading. Okay, so this is actually our first HTML file. Okay, so our heading which came over here, this is my h1 heading. Now you will also see the other headings which are h2 and h3 and h4. Okay, so if I write h2 tab, so I'll write h2 heading. So I'll say h2 heading. Okay, Control S, and if I see, so it is a little bit smaller than the h1 heading. Okay, so I told you before that these are a little bit different in sizes from each other. Okay, so then we are just going to go to another ones. Okay, so if I just simply say Control C, Control V, Control C mean to copy a line, and Control V mean to paste that. Okay, you can also select this like that. If I select this file and Control C and then click down here Control V, but in VS Code on whatever line you are and you say Control C and then Control V, so that will copy the whole line. Okay, it will copy the whole line and paste it. So now inside h3 I'm just gonna remove that h2 2 only, and I'll write 3. So in closing and opening point, both of them, that will change my heading. Inside h3 sorry h2 again, and I'll write h4, then in here I'll write h5, and then I'll say Control CV, then I'll say heading 6. So these all are done due to auto close these extensions. Okay, that what I have done, it was because of these which one is that, auto rename tag. Okay, so that was because of that. So now if I just simply say Control S and go to that, so here you can see that my heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, and rest of them. Okay, so these are actually changed in the size only. So H stands for actually heading. Okay, so the headings are actually the first part of our let's say file, or you can say whatever you want. Then we have inside the okay, first I'm just going to these are just going to be commented, but let me just remove this comment because I'll talk about this comment a little bit later. Okay, so we have this heading. After this heading we are going to go to paragraph. That what is actually paragraph. Okay, so paragraph is actually represented with a p tag. So p, and you can say just enter. Inside this p tag we can write our whole things inside this. Let's say I want to say that this is my heading 1. Okay, so inside this heading 1 I'll say that college. Okay, so let's say college. Okay, so inside this college you can write whatever related to this heading. Okay, so inside this p tag, this p tag will be actually for this college. So let's say I'm saying that college and blah blah blah, whatever you want to say. Okay, so for that I just want to write lorem, and let's say 10 words. So I enter, so it will generate 10 words for me. Okay, so this lorem is actually what I have done. It is just from because of this lorem spam. Okay, so what does this lorem spam do? It creates words for you which are actually random words for you. So I just generate 10 words for that, and if you see, this is a college heading, and this is whatever you want to write for that college, so it will give it to you. But that was the random words were actually for the lorem spam. Okay, so that's why I'm saying to you that install these extensions, which are really important for you. So this p tag actually starts here and close it in here. These all the elements will have a closing and opening point. Okay, but few of them are which have only an opening tag and they don't have a closing tag, but we will talk about that later. Okay, so now our h1 tag is done, and also our p tag. So the p tag actually usually shows you the words in little bit in smaller okay, so they're in small in size, like smaller than heading. Okay, so if you see here, this is a heading and this is the paragraph, which are a little bit smaller, but we will work with the sizes in css which are for the later. Okay, so we'll talk about these later. Then actually comes something else inside these headings and also these paragraphs, but we are just going to talk about also these a little bit later for more we can say that give it an extra styling. Okay, so but we'll do it right now. Okay, so let's say I want to give this heading a little bit style. Okay, let's say the color is black, so I want to make it a little bit style to it. So for that we have another thing which is an attribute. Okay, and the attribute is, let's say, a style. Okay, so we will give it a style. This style is actually an attribute, and you will be confused at what is style and what is attribute. Okay, so every element has some attributes. Okay, so attributes mean attributes will be actually inside the opening tag. Okay, inside this opening tag. Okay, inside this opening tag, it means that, let's say I have written h1, so this is the opening tag, so you'll write that style in here, not in the closing tag. Okay, like this closing tag, you won't write it in here in the closing tag. Let's say I'm saying that style, it will give me an error. Okay, it will not work. So all time you will have to write it in the opening tag. And what is attribute here for this? Actually let me give you a simple example of that. Let's say we have a user. Okay, so the user must have a name, email, and address. So the same, let's say, consider this h1 is actually a user. So these has some attributes like a style. It will have some other attributes either like height, width. So all these will be discussed a little bit later, so we are just going to discuss it later. But before that, you have to note that the style is actually an attribute. Okay, so the style which we can give extra styling to our college. Let's say our college color is black, but we want this color to be black red. Okay, so for that I'll just simply write inside the style, I'll write a color. Okay, so the color will be, let's say I'm going to give it red, so the color, then columns, and then the closing tag, it also refers to closing tag. So then I told it that it is red, so the color is now red. Let's say I want this color to be blue, so then I'll come to the p tag, and inside the p starting point. Okay, this is the closing point and this is the starting point. So inside the p starting point, I'll just give it a style attribute, and I'll tell him that the color should be, let's say, blue. So it gave me blue color. Okay, so these are the two things. This is actually an attribute. Consider this is actually a child of this one. Okay, but it's not a child, but it's an attribute. Okay, just to give you a simple view of that. So after that we are just going to go to a little bit further, and also I told you that this style must be inside the opening tag, okay, not in closing tag. You have to keep it in your mind. So also these have some more things like height and width. These are also some other attributes, like this is hidden, this is actually the attribute. Lots of things are, but we don't use all the attributes in every file, okay. So they have some other tags or elements that we will use these in them, okay. We can't use all the attributes inside only h1 and p1, okay. There are other what we say elements that we will use in it, okay. So now this p tag actually shows a paragraph, and the same thing we can use some other tags, like let's say our font or in heading. If you see, so the text are actually a little bit bold type, okay. These are in size, they are big and they are a little bit bold. We can write the same thing inside with other tags, like let's say I want to write it a bold tag, or I want to write it a strong tag, I want to write it in italic, okay. But now I'm just going to write it simply over here, but then we'll work with that with css, okay. To make everything italic or bold in css, we will talk about it in this course a little bit later. So the first I want to write it bold, okay. So for that bold I just want to write only b, okay. So press enter and let's say bold text, and if I say Control S, so this text is actually bold, okay. The same text is, if you check it to the paragraph tag, this is a little bit bolder than that, okay. So bold text. And the same if I write it in italic, let's say I want to write it I, and this will be, let's say, italic text. But I told you, and I'm saying it to you again, that we will write these everything a little bit later. We'll talk about these later, okay. Now if you see that this bold text and this italic text, these are in one line, and here I have separated it in the second line, but they are not actually separating from each other, okay. And we have some other text, either like a small tag, like a strong tag. So I'm just gonna write all of them right now. So with this small tag, which is italic text, but I'll write it small text. And the same thing, I'm just gonna write it strong text, okay. So I'll write it strong, and this will be actually strong. So this is strong, actually just like a bold tag, but it's a little bit different than bold, okay. So these are a few other elements. Now if you see these are all in the one line. So how I will separate them into the second line? Let's say bold text will be in one line to show me, the italic will be here, and the small text will be before that, and this strong text again. So we are just going to separate it into a next line. So we will use one other element, which is br tag, okay. So br stands for actually break, okay. So if I write br, and now I told you before that some of the tags will have only opening tag, not a closing tag, okay. So this br tag, because I don't want to write something inside it, that's why it will have only an opening tag, not a closing tag. If let's say if I have to write something inside there, so then I'll say write something, okay. So I'll say write something, so then I'll have to close that br tag, okay. But there is no need to write something inside that br tag, because it just do our work to break the line. So there is no need to write inside that thing, so we just need to break the line for that. So it will break the line, and then there is no need to write something, so this will work fine for us, okay. Now see that the bold text, after the bold text I wrote br line, and that break the line. So the same thing, I'm just gonna write it after the italic, and inside after the small tag also I'll write it br tag, and that's it. So all of them are break into another line. And if I write another br tag in here, let's say I'm just gonna write it at the first line br tag. So I want to write 3 br tags, so it will give me an extra 3 spaces, okay. Like 3 lines are break. So keep it in mind that br actually breaks one line space, okay. So this was a beer tag, and also the bold and italic, small, strong. We have also some others like mark, emphasize, and these are a lot of them, like delete text. Okay, so you can also see that, but we are not using that all of them. We even don't use these few text because we can work with CSS better than these things, but we'll talk about later CSS. Okay, so now we have to do something which is comments. So how will we comment a line? Let's say I want to say to create a comment here, let's say, and I don't want to show it on the screen. Okay, so what I will do, I am just gonna say that br element breaks the line. Okay, so I just wrote this, but whenever I control s this and come over here, so it is also shown here, which means br element breaks the line. But I don't want to show this because it's just only for my personal to see that how does br works. So I will use a comment which will not be shown in our browser. Okay, so for that I want to write it control and slash. Okay, what is this? How I just did this with control. Okay, control ctrl control, and also this one, this slash. Okay, so after this, whenever you press this control and then slash, this will comment a whole line, and now I can't see it here. Okay, let's say I want to comment this one, so I'll say control and slash, so it will also, I want to all of them to be commented, so I will say control and space and select them. Okay, I want to select this, control space, and here all of them are commented. So you can comment your files through this. Okay, so it is a simple. I don't want to comment all of them because I will leave a few of them that you can see them. So I did control S again, and you will see them. Okay, so I just commented this break line. Okay, that I have a comment that what a br tag actually works for. And after that we are just going to go a little bit more about this, that what are actually a css. I'm talking about css. Okay, so we have three type of css inside this, but these are actually for css course, but also I want to touch it a little bit, that we can understand the HTML with a better way, and that we can design our HTML a little bit better. Okay, so we have CSS with three types. The first one is inline, internal, and external. What does inline do? Inline, this is actually inline CSS, but I'm not gonna go deeply to CSS in HTML course. I'll create another video upon CSS, which will be from very basic to advanced, and I'll cover all CSS properties. Okay, so this whenever you write styling inside an element, so this is actually inline CSS. And what is internal CSS? Internal CSS, I told you before, that we write something else in the head, which is a style. Okay, so I wrote style and I just close it. So this is the starting point of the style, and this is the closing point of the style. Okay, so I will write all the style inside this style component. Okay, so inside this style element. Okay, so now let's say I want to give some style to this b tag. So I will select it directly, B, and then close and open it. Okay, so I will write all the style inside this B tag. Okay, so for this B, I'll write everything. So let's say I want to say that color should be actually let's say green. So I want to control S that, and you see that the bold text is now green. So our style just got over here. Let's say I want to this h1 tag. Okay, this style is actually inline, this is actually internal. Okay, internal CSS, which is inside the file but out of the element. And we have another HTML which is external, where we'll create a new file, let's say style, or you're just going to confuse in it, so I'll say external external.css. Inside this external we will have all the styling properties, and then we will connect it to this. Okay, but these are all actually for CSS, so we are not just going to touch it anymore like that, but we are just going to use some inline CSS and internal CSS just to touch it for a little bit beautiful styling, that we understand our HTML with a better way. Okay, now after this we have another thing, which is actually an element, which is a div. And we have whenever we have, let's say I have h1 tag and I have p tag. Let's say I have 3 to 4 p tags, okay, and I want to wrap them inside a container. So for that, what I need just a container to wrap them all, and I will use a style upon that which will be considered for all of those p tags. Let me just give you an overview of it. So we have an element which is a div. Okay, this div is actually works as a container for them. Let's say I have a p tag and I want to say something, let's say college. Okay, but I will just convert it to h tag. Okay, h3 tag, which is a heading. Okay, and then I have a p tag where I'll write some lorem words, let's say lorem 7. And then let's say I have 3 to 4 lorems. Okay, and then I want to control s this. And if I see this here, we have a college, and then we have this. Okay, so this actually works as a container. Now I'll show you that how does it works as a container. Let's say I want to give it a style, and then I'll just give it a background. Okay, what is background? Background is actually it also known from the name background. Let's say I want to say background color. Okay, so I'll say that background color, and I'll give it a background color of, let's say, gray. So it will give a gray color of background. Now see that how does it works as a container for all of them. And first I have written a div. Inside that div I give a background color gray, and then inside these are the childs of the div, h3 tag and 3 p tags. So h, which is this college, and these are the 3 extra p tags. So these are actually working as a container. Okay, so we will talk about this later, a little bit later in the CSS, that how we will use it as a container and how we will give it more styling to these. So just think about it that is like a container for many p elements and h tags and lots of them. Okay, now another thing is actually for section. Okay, so what is section? Section also works as a container, but the section let me write a comment here. Section also works like a container, but a container of many divs. Here the div was actually a container for many p and h tags, but section is a container of many divs. Let's say we have many divs. So then we will wrap them inside a one container, which will be a big container, and that will be known as a section. And I'm just going to tell you about section, what we can do more about section. Okay, so div works as a container. Okay, but you have to just think about it. It's just like a container. Okay, now down here I just want to write it a section. Okay, so what is a section? Section is also actually a container, but a container of many divs. Okay, sorry, control Z. Container of many divs. Okay, and then I'll just give you a little bit brief view of container, that what actually this section works. Let me paste it in here, and this time I'll just change it a little bit here. If you come to over here to this color, the VS Code will automatically tell you that which one color do you want to choose. Okay, so you can choose your favorite colors either. Okay, so this is div 1. Okay, and then I just want to select another div. Sorry, I'll paste it in here and I'll change the colors. Okay, then so this is for div 1, control C, V, and then another one V, control S. And if you see, we have these all the things. Okay, so this color is actually for the section, this what we say for this one. And now I just want to change all these colors, different ones. Okay, so let's say this is a little bit greenish, I'll make it yeah, this okay, and this gray color should be changed to this one, and now this one will be changed to something else. So if I do a control S, then we can see all the different colors. Okay, but this one color is actually for the section, okay, this one, which is behind them, and that one is as a container for all of them. Whenever we go to CSS, then we will work more about it, and it will have more power of that. Okay, so don't worry about these RGB, you can convert it with any other ways. Okay, so it's not just a big deal. So after this section, we have another element, which is an href, or we can say href a href. Okay, whenever you have a button, but we will talk about the button a bit later, but yeah, we'll talk about it also here. So okay, now we have, let's say I want to write an a tag, okay, which is an href. Okay, inside this href I want to go let's say Google. Okay, and I'll click upon this Google. Okay, sorry, I will write a Google inside this. If I say control S, so this will work as a link. See, this works as a link. And what is this href? Okay, href tag is actually a reference. Actually, it's a hyperlink, and this is a reference actually that where you want to go. Let's say I want to go to www.google.com. okay, google.com, and I have let's say another one tag, which is a Facebook. Okay, so I have a Facebook, and I want to then write a Facebook. Okay, so this actually links you to another. Okay, so this is a Google link, and this is a Facebook, and also I want to write a beer tag inside it that we can break into another line. Okay, so this is a Google and this is a Facebook. Whenever you click on this Google, it will go to a google.com, but here we don't have any kind of I don't have internet, I didn't connect it, so it will not go to Google, and we have a Facebook either. Okay, so these are actually linkage. If you want to write some linkage to it, so you can write. Okay, we can also write something inside this. Okay, this Google, let's say I want to write actually a button. And what is button? Button is also an HTML element. Okay, inside that button we can write whatever you want. Let's say I want to write it go to Google. So here we have this button, and whenever we click on that, that will go to Google. Okay, so you can write it button inside there, you can write anything else. Okay, so this was a tag, and then we have another one, which is actually an image. Okay, so image is actually we use it for images like media's files. Okay, so image, let's say I want to show you that image, and then the image has two other attributes. The one attribute is actually source, the other one is actually alt. Okay, so I told you before that all of the elements have different attributes. Okay, I told you that T has few of them, H tag has few of them, and dev has also few of them, but here image has also a few elements. So the first one is actually source, the second one is actually alt. Okay, so what is the source? Okay, the source is actually where you want to grab the HTML path from. Okay, let's say in here this images, I have lots of images. Okay, so how I will connect this to this image? So for that I will just go to /. Okay, then it shows me that you have an images. Okay, images, then you will say /, then I have all the images inside that images folder. Okay, let's say I want to say flip-flops, and I click that. Okay, then it will give me that image. If I control S that, and down here we have these this image for that. Okay, but one thing that you have to notice, that here you are seeing all the things inside that. Let's say I want to say that /, and we have images. Okay, images, and then I'm seeing all these images. So this is also because of the extensions, okay, where we have where's that Antilism for CSS class names in HTML. No, here's one which is for that, but that gives you the paths, okay, that let's say I have an image inside that file, and I have a file inside that folder. So inside this, and if you don't see that, so now I just want to click here and I don't see anything, but then you have to say control and space. That will give you all the files present inside it, okay. So I click on the flip-flop and it will give me that flip-flop, okay. So now I want to give this image, okay, a little bit style. So for that style, again I'm just going to write, okay, we are just going to go to this alt. What is alt? Alt is actually whenever you don't have this image, so then it will show this text instead of that. Let's say I'm just saying that sandals, okay. So these are some sandals. I don't know about its spelling, but it's like that, sandals pair, okay. So if this image is not present, so then it will show me this text, okay, this alternate text. Let's say I'm just gonna the path is wrong, okay, so it shows me the sandal pairs, okay. That's because of this alt tag, okay, this alt attribute. So now I just want to change again that flip and see the image, okay. So now I just want to give it a little bit style, okay. So the style is just going to be through some other things, okay, like I want to give it a width, a height, and something like that, okay. So I want to give it a height and width. Let's say I just want to write a height, and height is, let's say, 600. You can give it pixels either, but we will talk about these pixels in CSS. And I just want to give it a width, okay, a width of, let's say, 500, and I want to control is it. So it is now changed in style. Let me just give it a little bit smaller size that you can see, and this should be either 200. Control is, so now it is in smaller size, okay. So you can see that it is in smaller. So because of what? Of height and width. Height is actually the height of that, like on y-axis, and the width is actually the size upon the x-axis, okay. So we have just changed its width and height. After this image, you will have seen some images inside a background, okay. We are there's a background, and you can see that there are images. So how do they come from there? So these are actually because of background in CSS, okay. Let's say I want to write it a div, and inside that div, if I write it a background, okay, but these are actually for the CSS. So we'll talk about this in detail in CSS, that how we will write the background images, okay. This is a background image, and you can do the same path and everything, but we will talk about this in CSS a little bit later. So you can have it either here if you want to try it, okay. Now after this, we are just going to go to a few other things, which is class and ID. Okay, what is class and what is ID? Let's say I have given this a height and width in here, but I want to give this height and width inside this inline CSS, sorry, internal CSS, okay. This internal CSS, okay. So how I will do that? Okay, so first I want to remove this height and width, and I'll give that a height and width through internal CSS. But for that I need a class and ID. What is class and what is ID? ID is actually unique. You'll give ID only for one usage, and classes are actually, you can use it many, but we will use classes much. We won't use the IDs because classes we can use it multiple times, and we can use it for many things, okay. But we'll use class actually, okay. What is class? Inside this class you will give a name. Let's say for this image I want to do some styling, so I will just give it image, okay. You can write it whatever you want. Let's say I want to say image style. You can write it like this. You can write it sandals, okay. So you can write it whatever you want, but I just want to give it actually image. It's a simple, it's upon you that whatever you want. And now the style of height width will be finished, but we are just going to give this our own styling through this class. But how will we know that? How will we connect with that? For that, class actually refers to a dot and id actually refers to a hash. Okay, so we will work with id either and a class either, but first we are just going to class. Okay, so that one is actually an image, and inside this I'll give it a height. Let's say a height of 400, and a width of you can either write it pixels, but pixels is actually a measurement of the height, like the same as we go to kilometers, meters, and the same here in CSS we give the pixels. It's actually a measurement of height and width. Okay, so now I just want to go with a width, and width should be, let's say 900 pixels, which is a little bit bigger. So it goes bigger, and the height also goes a little bit in height. Okay, so now I just give it a dot. Dot represents the class. Okay, this dot represents that class, okay, which is an image. And the same image I want to do again, but I'll change the image path to something else, and I'll style it with an id. Okay, so this is a gif.png. So down here we have this gift, but it is giving the style the same style, but I want to just change this with a gift. I'll just give it a style gift, and I'll give it an id. This time I just want to style this gift image with id gift. Okay, so I want to go at the top again, and in here I did a dot. After this, down here I'll give it a hash, and for that hash I'll just use it that gift. So I'll say that, let's say its height will be 300. Okay, and its width will be also 300. So let's make it 300 pixels, a height and width, and if I save it, it is smaller in size now. Okay, so that's why. And I can either give it a br tag right now just to change it. Now it's in the other line. Okay, so we will do all these stuff with CSS later on, not with these br tags and anything else. Okay, so after this we have another thing, which is actually a table. Okay, so what is actually tables? Whenever we want to show some data, we use it and we show that in the form of a table. Okay, so you will have seen some data showing in form of table, then you will see that how does we will show that. Okay, so let's go over here, and we want to show it in the form of table. So first for the table starting, okay, let me just do a comment, tables. Okay, so I want to write, so you will start it from the table. Okay, you'll have to just write a table and enter it. So this is the starting point of the table. Okay, inside the table we have in form of data in the form of rows and columns. Okay, let's say I have inside this data, like one is in the form of row, then the second one have, all of them will have a data in their own particular rows and columns. Okay, so how will we show that? The first one is the table row, okay, which is a tr stands for table row. Okay, let's say I want to show 3 datas and 3 columns, and there will have much rows. Okay, so first I'm just gonna say, let's say name. Okay, so the second one will be, let's say it's email, and the third one will have its address. Okay, so if I save this, sorry, it's a table row, and inside the table row I will show all this data. Sorry, table row. Inside this is now a row, which all these will be shown in the form of a row, like this row. Okay, in form of x-axis. So I want to show this, and I will just simply change it to th. Now what is th? Th is actually heading. Th mean table heading. Okay, so I want to show the first row in form of heading. Okay, which will be bold, like a bold and bigger form. Okay, if I control s them and go there, see this is a name, email, and address in form of row, in x-axis form of row, and they are in bold form. Okay, they are bigger and bold form. Now I want to see their data. Okay, so the name, email, and address, these are actually the headings. So now I'll write data for name, email for email, and address for address, but they will be like in smaller form, like a paragraph type and heading type. Okay, so now again I'll use a tr mean for row. Now I will show another row. Okay, like for this name, email, address, I'll go down and create another row. For that row, the name will have name, email will have email, and address will have address. Okay, so inside this row I'm just gonna write it a table data, td stands for table data. Okay, so the name will have, let's say, Ali, and the data will have an email. There will have an email, which is email at ali at gmail.com, and this will have an address either. Okay, so for that I'll just write it an address either, let's say Karachi, and I want to save that. So all of that have a name, which is Ali, email, which is ali at gmail.com, and address, which is Karachi. Okay, so all of them have its own data. Now I want to write, let's say I want to write another data, then I'll create another row. Okay, I'll create third row for again a data. Okay, these are in the form of rows, the first row, the second row, and then again the third row, which will have this whole data again. Okay, so for this I just want to write, let's say it's John, and you will be curious that how I did select all of them, but I'll tell you a little bit later. Let's say I have Ali. Okay, I want to select these Ali and Ali, so I'll select Alt and Ali, so both Alis are selected. Okay, so I want to just change that. Let's say John. Okay, so John and John at gmail.com, let's say New York, and Control S, and here we have this John. But you will be curious that in tables we have some borders around them. Okay, so how will we see these borders? So I'll just tell you that how to give them the borders. So I have this table, tr, th, and td, so I'll select them. Okay, at the top style, and here I'm just gonna select them, table, then I have a tr, then I have a th, then I have a td, and I'll select them all, and I'll just give it a 1 pixel border. Okay, so I'll say a border 1 pixel solid red. So here all of that has a border. The table, which is a bigger table, then it has a table heading has its own border, then the table data has its own, and the table row has its own borders. Okay, so you can also do some other styling to it, which is a border radius, but what are these? I'll tell you in detail about this in CSS. Okay, so let's say 10 pixels, so this will curve these border radiuses. Okay, so these are a little bit rounded, and you can also use a collapse. So let's say border collapse. Okay, sorry, not color, collapse. So I'll say collapse, and collapse will actually remove the spacing between them. Okay, so let's say before that it was collapse. Okay, like this is this has a spacing, if you see in between them, and if I just simply remove that, so it will have no spaces between them. Okay, you can give some paddings and everything. So these are actually for CSS. We will talk about this in detail in CSS. So I think for this video it's enough, and we will just go a little bit more in details with the HTML. So little bit other, we have lifted a few elements, so we'll do it in the next video. Okay, form, list items, order list, and unordered list. So first we're just going to go with the lists. Okay, so the list has ordered list and unordered list. Okay, so the opening tag and closing tag starts with ul mean unordered list. Okay, inside this we will write lists. Now this list will contain data. Okay, so let's say li mean list items. Okay, so let's say this is item 1 and I want to put 2 items, so I'll say this is item 2. Control S, and here we go. Here it is, item 1 and item 2. And remember that I don't refresh this document, okay, this index file, because I have started it with the live server, so that's why it doesn't need any kind of refreshment. Let's say I want to write third one. Okay, so item 3. So if I just go with item 3, so it refreshes it directly whenever I save it. And UL, which is unordered list, it gives us the by default it gives us these dots. Okay, so it represents the unordered list. Now we have order list. Okay, so now we are going to write order list, which starts from OL. Okay, so I'll just come over here and write it OL, which is order list. Now order list will give us the 1 2 3, like it is with order form. Okay, it is in order form. So here the unordered list, by default it give us the dots, while order list give us in form of number. Let's say I have 3 more items. Okay, with that I just want to put more 3 items, so that will give me their own number also. Let's say this will be 1 2 3 4 5 6. Okay, so this will be up to 6. Now here we have this order list up to 6, but further on we'll work with these, that how will we work with order list, unordered list, and lists. Okay, so this UL is actually like a container for these lists. Okay, the same as in the table. Okay, the table is actually as a container for the table rows and table datas. Now we have to work with forms. Okay, so how the forms work, so we will work with form also. The form starting and ending point is also the same like form, and you will enter it. Okay, so it also has some attributes which has action, but we will talk about this in future because we don't need it yet here. Okay, so now we have to work with forms. Okay, so forms have different elements, like we have input element, we have a label element, we have a text area element, and we have a button element. Okay, but that input also has a few attributes. Okay, like input has to be in form of text, it will be a number, it will be a radio button, or it will be a button either. Okay, so we're just going to work with them. So first we have a label. Okay, sorry, so label. Okay, now label also has a for attribute. Okay, but what is this for? I'll show you right now that what is for. Let's say I'm just gonna say this is a username. Okay, this will be a username, and now I'm just going to write another thing which is element, which is an input. Okay, now input has lots of attributes. So one of them is type, and one of them is ID. Okay, now what is ID? So now I'll tell you that what is ID and for here, how does it works. Always keep in your mind that for whatever the value you give it to for, let's say I'm just gonna give it a name, you will give the same value to this ID if you want to refer them, because they are actually joined to each other. Okay, so they are actually joined to each other. Now I'll show you that how they are joined to each other. Okay, so now we have a label. The label actually represents the input that hey, this is a username, this is a visual form. Okay, it will give us that this is a user input where you can write it username. Okay, now this type actually also takes a few values. The one is text, one is number, button, radio button, and lots of them. Okay, so now we will check them number by number, but now I just want to show you this demo. So here you can see that this is a username, okay, which is because of this label, and the other one is actually the input, this one. Now if I click on this, here I clicked on this username and it shows me, redirected me to this input, okay. So now if I just go in here, so what I will do right now, that if I change this name, let's say I want to change this name and ID that are changed from each other. Let's say name W, okay, and this name is now with simple name. So now this will not work. Let's say I'm just clicking on this name, it will not redirect me to this input, okay. That's why, because this name is changed. And I want to show you its another benefit. Like let's say this is a beer, okay. So this is I just want to make it far away from it, okay. So this name is now far away from that, but their ID and for is same, okay. So now I want to click on this, look, it represents me here to this one, okay. But we can also take this to the next level, okay. Let's say you have a label, okay, and you don't want to show this label name just like this. We have shown it in here. This is a name, and inside this it represents that input that this belongs to username, okay. So you can also do it with another way called a placeholder. This placeholder will show me this username, that yes, this username, this input belongs to the username, okay. See, there is a username inside the input tag, okay. So you can do it with both ways, but right now I just want to show you the label with label way, okay. So now I have, let's say I have 2, okay, 2 to 3 I will use them. Now this is just, let's say a number, okay. So we will write also a number. I just want to represent it with NUM. So this will be a user number, and I'll show you that it will accept the number, okay. And you will give this a number, okay. It also the IntelliSense says that here you have to write like number, okay. And a placeholder will have a user number, but I don't want to use this placeholder yet right now, okay. I'll remove it. I'll leave this as a reference, but in form of comments, okay. So I'll put it at the top, and I leave this as a comment, but here I just want to remove this placeholder. But what I'm saying that important, the okay, let me use a beer tag in here, okay. Beer tag, sorry, B is for bold. So here is a username and here is a user number, okay. So you can select here the user numbers also. You can write it whatever you want, okay. So I can write whatever you want, but it's specially it will accept the numbers, okay. Let's say I'm saying 1 2 3, okay. So it will accept 1 2 3 only, okay. So now I want to put a button also at the bottom. So I'll say button, okay. So button will have let's say submit. So I want to submit this, okay. So this is just a simple button, a simple form, and I'll just give it a little bit style, okay. But the style will be at the top, okay. So I'll select the form, the input, and the button, okay. So I think I should just give only a simple border to the form, not to anything else, okay. So here's a little bit styling also, CSS came into it, but you shouldn't worry about it, because I'm just going to create another video upon CSS, which will be from basic to full advanced to animations and everything, okay. Then I'll create a video upon Tailwind CSS, then it will be JavaScript, and then further on I'll work on the Node.js and APIs. Also for the front end I'll make a course upon React.js either, okay. So I would just want to give it a border of 1 pixel solid, 1 pixel solid, let's say cyan. So this is now very big, which we don't want to make it that much big. So I'll just give it a width of let's say 300 pixels. So this is now a small form, okay. And I want to make another beer tag after before the button, okay, here. So here we have little bit space between them. So this is a form, If you submit it, it won't work because we haven't done any kind of functionalities to these things. Okay, so right now now I want to show you the inputs a little bit more. So I just want to come out of the form. Okay, and I want to create another form inside this form inputs. Okay, so inside this form inputs, I'll show you that what are the rest of the attributes of inputs. Okay, so this is a form, and I just want to go down here. Let's say this is an input, and inside this input, now I just don't want to give it, I just will give it a radio. So if I save it, down here we have a little bit small button radio, but I want to remove this from the form because it gives us default styling at the top, which I have given it. Okay, so this is a radio. Okay, and now I want to give it a label. So here I can't use a placeholder. Okay, so what I will use, that I'll use it a label. Okay, and sorry, the label will be, let's say, for radio, or you can say radio btn. Okay, and this will be, let's say I'll write mail. Okay, and down here I will have an ID for this, which is radio btn, and if I select it, so we have this mail selected down here. Okay, so you can write the same for male and female. So btn, let's say I'll say 2. You can write it whatever you want. It's not important that you will have to write the same names what I'm writing. Okay, so we have a male and female, so you can select all of them. Okay, so now I want to show you another input of the same attribute of this input type. So I'll write input again, and this will have now if I just simply cut it and control space it, so it will show me all the input type attribute values. Like we have a button, we have a checkbox, we have color, we have date timeline, everything. These are all for this up to this week. Okay, these are all for this these values are all for this type attribute. Now I just want to show you the button. So if I click this button, and then I'll use it a submit for that button. Okay, so then I'll use a button submit. Now this is the button, and I will have to write all the things for that. Now I just want to show you the others. Like we have color, checkbox, let's say checkbox, and here is a checkbox, this square form. I'll leave this for you, and I'll say let's write something else. Color, and color, which is really important. If you see this, you can pick it up a color here from here also. So let's say I want color this one. Okay, and also you can find out its opacity. Okay, so you can choose a color whichever if you want. Okay, so now this is the color, and you can also use another one, like let's say time. So I'll write a time for that, which is down here, and text is for text only. Okay, so I'll say this is a time. You can select a time from that, you can whatever you want to write. Okay, and let's say this is a time. Okay, so you can write whatever you want. Now another one is, I think, a date. So you can pick it up a date from there. So I'll say date, and from the date I can select like in form of calendar. Okay, so here it pops up, and you can find out whatever you want to grab the date. And also we have some more. What are the others? So you can see all of them are present in here. Month, number, image, hidden, file. You can select also a file, which is really important. We will work upon this later. So this is now a file, and you can choose a file from here or if you want. Sorry, the space. So input, now you can choose a file from this. If you select this, so you can choose a file from here. Okay, so these are the input values, and we have also another attribute called a value, which we will use it for further on in the next course, like maybe in JavaScript we'll use this, because that's very important which holds the value. You will grab the value from this input, because if you want to write something, let's say I have to write control X this, I want to create another input, and that will have a text. Okay, this is a text, so I'll grab this value, and then what I will do, that whatever I write in this text, okay, so it will be taken from this value. Okay, like in JavaScript, that whatever that value has, I want to grab it and I will store it in a value, and then I want to store it in a database. Okay, so we'll work with this either in future. And I don't think so that there is something left it, so we'll do work with it also. Yeah, I just remembered that one thing else that we have to do, which is span. Okay, we'll use it, which is really important. So I want to write, let's say this is a college, and I want to say that this is my college. Okay, so my college, and this is at the top, my college, where it is, this is my college, but I will write it at the very top. Okay, and this heading, here is my heading, this, so I'll say my college. And here I want to show you a small trick about span. Okay, so we can write span inside a heading, inside a p tag, inside a div tag. You can write it inside whatever element you want. Okay, so let's say I want to try it in the h1 tag, this h1 tag, and here is my college. Okay, and I want the college color something else, and my color something else. Okay, so now I'll select this my, and I'll write it span. So you can give extra styling internally to whatever element you want. Okay, so I just want to give this college little bit styling to my. Okay, so I'll just give it a style now, because I want to use it in line style. So I'll say color, and I'll just give this color cyan, and I'll just give it a font size. Now we have another another property of CSS, which is font size. So font size mean that let's say font size will be large, small, whatever you want. You can also give it in the pixels, like let's say 30 pixels, 20 pixels, and whatever you want. Okay, so this is now a font size. So now I just give it a color, which is cyan, and the font size is 25 pixels. Let's make it a little bit more, like 40 pixels. That how does, okay, so it affects that. Okay, so my college, now it affected with a large size. So you can give extra styling to your tags and elements at what you want. Okay, so then we'll give classes, and CSS will use classes IDs, which will be very interesting. Okay, so we will work on CSS also. So the next course is CSS. This was HTML, and if you have any kind of issues related to HTML, CSS, JavaScript, Node.js, MongoDB, and also MySQL, so if you have any kind of issues related to these things, you can ask me whatever if you want at comment section. You can also contact me here. So that's it for HTML.